And because of that attention, we've built a big audience, a strong audience. And then that audience and attention is able to be converted into opportunity.
Jarrod, welcome to the show today.
It's so great to be here. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, so you've been working with Grant Cardone for a long while, 10, 12 years or so. But I'm curious, how did you meet?
It's actually an interesting story. I was kind of in a transitional moment in my life where I was like having to figure everything out, that moment where you're like, I can't be a young kid and go out and just party every weekend. And I need to get a career in line. And so I was kind of in this moment, and my dad had sent me a YouTube link for a guy. And I'd heard the name Grant before because I'd come from kind of sales roles in the past. And so I'd heard the name before, but never really looked into him.
Because he was a sales trainer back in the day, right? He was.
That's how the business started, was just going around doing sales seminars. And so clicked on the link, went onto YouTube. This was in 2010. So he had about 22 or 23 YouTube videos on his page. I smoked through them all and was like, I got to go work for this guy. It was like, I got to go work for this guy. And so that's how it all started. I called the office every day for a month and a half until they interviewed me. And then
did you really?
Yeah.
Every day there's Jarrod again. Geez, what are we going to do?
I knew
with
everybody's
this guy?
name. There were three people. There was 2 full-time people, 2 part-time people. And I knew them all and they knew me. So
that's funny. Are you normally a driven guy, Jarrod, or is that unusual for you? Or was that like normal behavior? When you want something, you just go, good, you get it.
Yeah. I think people have an innate power inside of them to get what they want when they have high intention and focus. And it's just a matter of what circumstances are happening around you that will open that up and allow you to really run after something. Because when people get really focused and disciplined and doing the right thing, moving towards a target, they usually get what they want. And so for me, it was just like, I was in a moment. It was like, this is time. It's time now. And so there was no other option. Just burn the ships.
Yeah, I love that. So they hired you, but it's just you stopped calling them. But how did the relationship? You're essentially his right hand man now. Did he hire you that way from day one?
No, there was another guy that was kind of like the manager at the time. There was a guy that was doing like sales / customer service that used to be his like landscape guy, and then there was a guy that was running the website, and there was somebody in accounting too. Her name it's escaping me right now, but she was a character. But it was started. I was like, get hired as a sales guy, and I showed up, and I'm answering the phone. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm kind of a receptionist too. And I'm making all these lists to go out and start cold calling, which I had never really done before. I said that I did that, but I always did it face to face so I could see somebody. Never done it over the phone before. It's totally different. And I'm making my list. I hadn't met Grant yet. I'd met him in passing once for 3 seconds, but he wouldn't have remembered me. And so I'm making my notes, and then he walks in, and like I came in from behind me. I felt this shift in energy in the room, and I turned over and looked at him, and he goes, "Who are you?" And I said, my name's Jarrod. I'm new. I'm working in sales for you." And he goes, "What are you doing?" And I was so proud of it at the time because there was no CRM or any. I'm like, I've gone through. I'm making a list of all the prospects that we have based on our thing, and I'm like so proud of this list. I'm like flipping pages. He's like, "Hey," and I said, "What?" He goes, "I'm not paying you to make a list. Pick up that effing phone." And so that was like my first real meeting interaction with Grant.
Yeah, so that's welcome. Well, exactly, you're right. So obviously that motivated you. Other people
Yeah,
would have gone.
I'm like, okay, it's game time. Like this is the big leagues. I guess this is things roll different in this area.
So what do you do now? What's your capacity in the organization?
President of the company. I oversee basically revenue generation, strategy, marketing, sales.
On which side? Because Grant's got several companies. So he's got a training educational company, and then he's got the real estate company. Yeah.
So Grant Cardone Enterprises is the sort of like the hub, the mothership, the brand. The brand that we built was is really the thing that's facilitating everything that you see. Like our partnership with Cardone Ventures, that business went from 0 to they did 80 million last year, 39 months in business. It was because of the brand. So lesson in this is get known, and people have their opinions about Grant. The more on a personal level people know Grant, the better they filter what they see. But all of that is done for a reason. It's done to get attention. And because of that attention, we've built a big audience, a strong audience. And then that audience and attention is able to be converted into opportunity. And so like our ventures business is an example of that. We bought a health business in November of 2021. It was doing 200 grand a month when we bought it. They're about 4.5 million a month now. Obviously, Cardone Capital came out of that. You know, they raised $1 billion on Instagram because of brand and awareness. And so there's been a lot of amazing things that have been able to be built off of the brand.
Let's reverse engineer that just a little bit. You're absolutely right. And my company was similar. It started with the educational training company, kind of where Grant did. He was a lot of sales training, right? And so that's where people first learned of him, was through training. And then he built up this brand, and he became more and more known. And that is then parlayed into actual raising capital and real estate and ventures and that. And I think coming from the multifamily investing syndication world, sometimes, well, most of the time, people kind of get it backwards, right? They're like, oh, we're in the capital raising. And so they back into the kind of the branding. I'm not saying it's wrong, right? If you want to do an apartment building deal, you should raise money for it. But I think if you want to scale, and certainly Grant has to a large degree, is that brand, that visibility is so critical to scale, because otherwise you're limited. Maybe you can talk about how he parlayed that, because I don't know, maybe he has a vision.
Well, I think what's important to understand, Michael, is that the way that we did it, and it's sounding like the way you did it as well, it gives you the luxury of writing your own playbook on how things are going to work. And what I mean by that is, you know, our business, like the education business was viable. Like the education business was making money. The education business was growing. The education business is what Grant was using. Like we'd make money over here. He'd pay everybody out. He'd take his distributions from it and go invest all of it in real estate. And it was that over time that put him in a position where when it came time to being like to launching Cardone Capital and the funds, he got to dictate basically how he wanted to play that game. Because the truth is when he started Cardone Capital, he already had maybe 1,800 units, 2,000 units that he owned on his own. And the business kept making more money. So he would have just kept doing his thing, buying his own deals, not having any outside investors. When I started investing with him 10 years ago, literally the only people invested with him were his sisters, his brother, and his mother-in-law. And he didn't want to raise money because he didn't want to deal with investors. And so it was that the vehicle that created the revenue that allowed him to get into a position where when it came time to go, hey, you know, maybe we should start a fund and maybe we should raise money, he got to do it on his own terms and say, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. He's told a story about a guy early on who wrote him a check for $25 million, pretty sizable check to get for somebody to invest in a deal. And he's like, you know, hey, look, here's how this thing rolls. I make the decisions. I make the calls. I make everything. And so, you know, the guy he's okay, well, I'll send you the check. He sends a guy down with the check who, you know, spends 3/4 of a day there, you know, ripping apart everything about the business. And then on the way out, he gives him the check back and he goes, you can give that back to your guy because this isn't going to work. and again, it's like being in that position where you don't need the thing that you're asking for. You don't need it. It's always like the hardest person to sell is the person who doesn't need to make a decision. When there's no urgency to make a move, those are sometimes the hardest people to close because they're like, I'm good with or without it. Like you got to do something really compelling for me to say, yes, I'm going to move. And
Jarrod,
so, yeah.
On that note, so you guys have grown, you guys kind of surpass a lot of people in the industry. You guys have reached a level where there's jets there, there's just a ton of exposure, way more than so many inside of the different businesses that you guys are in. What do you think got you guys to that level? Was this level that you're at is different than most?
Yeah, I mean, the pilot of the plane, the guy flying, Grant, the guy in the executive's chair, the guy that's calling the shots. Just we've come to learn this saying called divine discontentment, and it's always like this insatiable thing of like of growth, but really it's not for the money or the material things for Grant. It's about this pursuit of his potential. And when things happen that grow and expand him as a person, his potential grows. And so for him, it's like, can I do this? Like, can I do that next big thing? If it was about money, he would have stopped the education business is a lot of work compared to real estate. So he would have given that up a long time ago. If it was about the money, he would have just been a real estate investor and sat back and, he's set. But it's this pursuit.
Michael says that all the time, by the way.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Go on.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you who we got this word from. We did an interview with a fella named Kevin Turner, and most people probably don't know the name, but this guy was hired and worked as a direct report with Sam Walton. He worked directly for Sam Walton. He helped build out the first management information technology system for inventory and operations at the time with a small little company out of Silicon Valley called Microsoft. He helped co-author their first enterprise agreement with Walmart. After his tenure at Walmart with Sam Walton, he was hired directly by Bill Gates. He became the COO of Microsoft. He started as a cashier at Walmart, by the way. Worked directly for Bill Gates. For 15 years, he was the COO of Microsoft. From there, Ken Griffin hired him at Citadel, and he worked directly for Ken Griffin. And so this guy's worked with some of the most like insane entrepreneurs in the world. He's actually going to be speaking at our event next week because his story is so fascinating. But Grant asked him, he said, you're talking about titans of business that you've gotten to work directly with. What is the thing that drives them? And he goes, they have this thing, this divine discontentment with their current status. And it's like this desire to just chase this pursuit of what's possible. And for no other reason than just can I do it? And, Grant's also a very purpose-driven person. So he's got, he's raised hundreds of millions of dollars for charity. We have a foundation. We give back a ton to inner city youth, underprivileged communities where kids don't have information about business entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and all that stuff. So all that stuff becomes more possible the bigger you get. So.
Now, how do you deal with someone like Grant, right? I mean, he's got a little ego, but he's got an even bigger vision, right? So, I'm a little bit of a visionary. I got great ideas all day long, right? And so how do you put up with that, right? Because it's very difficult, impossible for you to say, oh, every time Grant has a great idea, there's no way you can execute on it. So how do you counteract the visionary from actually getting stuff done?
Yeah, I mean, I think Grant and I have an interesting relationship. I'm not a yes person by any means. But I've earned that right over time because of results. Like you just look back, you're like, hey, when we started, the company was doing $1.9 million a year. Enterprise value of the company is $3.5 billion today. So it's like a lot of things happened right along the way to get me in a position where I can share ideas. I can have a debate with him about what's right or wrong. But at the end of the day, we have a saying is like, if we're going to be wrong, we're going to be Grant wrong. And so when he sets his mind to doing something, it's like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to play all out. And Grant's like, if we're going to be wrong, I just want to know it was because I was wrong. And he's willing to admit it too. Like that's another thing is he's, the first one to say, yeah, well, that didn't work. He'll come in and he'll be like, this page is terrible, or this email is terrible. I can't believe it's god awful. What are you guys thinking with this?
Grant, that was your idea.
Then,
you wrote that email.
No, and then I'll just let him get it all out, and then I'll go, it's the best performing page that we've had in the last 3 months. Oh, okay, great. Well, let's do more of that. I was wrong. For us to work together, Grant stays out of mechanics. He's a visionary. I see the business from a little bit of a different lens because I'm more in the weeds of it. I see how the plumbing works. I see what goes on, what's required to get things done, to move them around. So there's a balance of not wanting to stifle the create, but also, make sure that you're using the visionary to be most efficient in achieving the goal that's most important for the organization. And it's something that works with everything that we're doing. And it's not something that distracts. It's like, yeah, we could go do that over there. And yeah, maybe we can make $5 or $6 million. But what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to lean over here because this supports a $100 million vertical in the business. And so then it's like, it's trying to direct some of that. But, the answer for us and why we've continued to grow is, to Garrett's point, is because we just keep adding people. You have to scale.
Adding people. I mean, we're in the syndication business. Once you've done a few deals, you realize that this is a team sport, and you have to hire people. You have to partner with people. The question is now, it raises the complexity. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to invest in some, but it's actually not. It's a team sport. How do you hold people accountable? What is your culture for holding people accountable?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about accountability, it's like somebody gets fired, it should never be a surprise. If somebody is going into a campaign or a promotion or a launch or whatever, everybody should have very clear expectations of what's required of them. Statistics need to be reported on a daily basis. The more important the statistic, the more urgency that's attached to the event, the more frequently statistics need to be managed. So numbers are a thing that we're all over in our business. Numbers don't lie, people do. And so what we do is we focus on measuring the thing that can be measured and then managing the people to influence the numbers. And, so for us, the culture is about grow. The culture is about push. It's about opportunity. There's a lot of people working for us making big money. And it's work. And so some people are not cut out for the environment that we operate in. But they pretty much self-select out. They're like, this is too intense, too much for me. But then on the other hand, we pay over market in almost every role. And because we do that, we have high expectations. So it's like overpay your people and then have really high expectations for them, rather than consistently being let down by them because you pay them an average earning, but you have above average expectations for them. So it's like, I got guys that are making $400, $500, $600 a year that can't go anywhere else and make that kind of money. Sure. And because of that, we have, expectations. We're most of the office right now in the sales department and in the marketing department. We've basically been working the last 4 weeks straight, and we're going to continue that through the end of next week with our big event, because we had a big promotion that we launched towards the end of the year. And it's just been an all hands on deck thing, customer service, sales, marketing, all through 7 days a week, any hours of the night, getting stuff built, getting it turned around. And everybody's excited,
Yeah.
Despite that.
So on that note, actually, what would you say is like, how do you communicate that to your people? Like, hey guys, we're working overtime, and have them be okay with it, versus like the work-life balance situation, right? Because you see that too.
Yeah, I mean, we, first of all, again, it's clarity of communication and expectations that are set out in the beginning are always the easiest thing to manage and to enforce and to hold people accountable to. It's when things are a surprise that there's a problem. but we tell them, and everybody's going to get a little. We'll kick everybody a bonus, just a discretionary bonus after this because it was a big team effort and everybody pushed on it real hard. But at the same time too, like we expect people to perform at a high level. Like we tell them. I mean, I guess the answer to your question, Garrett, is just communication. Like every single day we run we run a tight ship, and that's really Sherry, our COO. She's where I'm focused on revenue, marketing, sales, strategy. She's focused on the operations of the business. And so she's the one that's making sure that people, SOPs are created and people know their jobs and people show up for this on time. And when so-and-so has a problem over there, it gets handled. But we do morning meetings every day where we're celebrating the successes of our clients in our business. Client successes and testimonials are life-changing. Like people are making more money. They're able to provide for their families at a greater level. Like they're really powerful stories that we share every single day. And so there's an intrinsic benefit for a lot of the people that work for us in that work with us in doing the work that we do. Outside and above and beyond just a paycheck, they get to see stories of transformation, and they get to be a part of an environment where we say, you should make money. And we're going to give you an opportunity to make money. An example, Grant's assistant makes, I think her salary is like maybe $6,500 a month or $7,000 a month. She made $214,000 last year. How'd she do that? Because we gave her an opportunity. Like Grant's like, it's more important that when somebody reaches out to me, you sell them something, then you go and get me a cup of coffee. like you handle the one thing, don't worry about the coffee. If you're talking to somebody about money and somebody's saying, go get Grant the coffee, they'll find somebody else.
Yeah.
What do you think's more important, Jarrod? People or process?
People, because if you have great processes with terrible people, then it all starts with people. People are everything, People are the thing that grow your business. You need both, but you can have great people and bad processes, and in my mind, you can still build something successful.
You guys, grew up with obviously great sales and marketing. That's what Grant Cardone is known for. And then you have parlayed that into other ventures, specifically multifamily real estate. How did you apply some of those principles of marketing and sales to Cardone Capital? I know you're not running that company, but you obviously see what's going on. How did you take the best practices you've had in the educational training company to raising literally billions of dollars? What can the syndicator who wants to scale learn from how you guys have scaled the capital side?
Just watch. We don't spend any money. Literally the only money that's spent on Cardone Capital for advertising is an ad on CNBC, and that's really not designed to convert. It's designed for awareness, so that when Grant has, I'm forgetting his name. He was just on the phone with him last week. I forget his name. Wall Street legend, multi-billionaire. Grant's on the phone with him, and the guy says, "Yeah, I hear your ad on the radio every day." It's really, that's what it's for. It's because now they know who he is. Because the people that are listening to CNBC in the morning on Sirius are the people that are running the biggest institutions in the world. And so outside of that, all it is just organic. So I wouldn't tell you that's the way that it's going to work for everybody, because we have an audience. We built an audience first. We monetized while we built an audience through the education business. So I would just look at how Grant promotes today. You have to figure building the audience out. And that's where you got to be active on social media. You have to try to create some way to reach out and build a list. That's when you start getting more into the marketing piece. How do you create lead magnets, free front ends, anything you can do to start building a list, and then being on social platforms and using them in a way where you can actually grow an audience, like TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. But being everywhere all the time on social is really the way that all of that starts. It doesn't start with an ad or a funnel. It starts with you getting comfortable creating content, you figuring out how platforms work, Because at the end of the day, social media platforms are a vehicle for people to get what they want, which is information. And so you just have to go out and create every piece of information about real estate, about syndication, about when's a good time to buy, about what markets are working and what markets aren't, about what's happening with debt, about what's happening with the economy, what's going on with inflation, how all that ties back together to multifamily. I mean, there's 50 videos that you have just in that little spat there. So that is how we approach marketing. We think about topics, we think about interests, we think about what are people searching for, and then we go out and we say, we're going to go own the real estate out there for that with content. And anybody that's blowing up in the real estate space right now is because they're doing podcasts, is because they're creating a ton of content, very value heavy. So that it's like, and people think that this is some like, if I give them all the secrets, they're just going to go do it on your own. No, they're not. Nobody executes. You're gonna tell them how to go start a fund, how to raise money. You're gonna go tell them how to do all this stuff, and then you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna be like, "Man, I tried to do it on my own. It was tough. Can I just invest with you?"
Exactly right. So where do you see everything going? Like, what's the vision here? Like, paint us a picture where you think Grant and you are taking the companies.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a big push this year into real estate education. It's sort of been a side hustle for us in our business, the education part of it. I own real estate education under the training company. And so we'll build out that this year to be much more robust than what it currently is. The bigger vision for the company is acquisition and partnerships of companies. We're working on this now. We own or are partners in 26 companies now. These are all companies that have come up through our business education programs. They know our business operating system, our process. And so we're working into targeted verticals where we're going to consolidate businesses and then go take a package to a private equity company and sell it and have a big score for everybody. So instead of 2 to 3x for a small business owner, they can roll with us and get 2 or 3 times that. So
that's awesome. Yeah. It's amazing what you can do when you create this much opportunity. Jarrod, how can people connect with you?
Best way is just first name and last name at Jarrod Glandt. If you guys put it somewhere, then most people will be able to find me online somewhere. So
that's awesome. It's been great to have you and look under the hood for your Grant Cardone company. It's awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate the time.